Welcome to our webinar about transforming medical device development and the key role of realistic simulation. I would like to start off by having a small presentation about our company, what we do, and then I will leave it to Arsen, and at the end of his presentation, we'll answer your questions. And if you want to follow up, if you have further questions, you can always contact us, and I will share our contact details once again at the end of the webinar, and also follow up with you with an email. So this is our overview of the company. We are a Houston-based Abacus Simula partner. We provide software solutions, training, and finite element analysis-based consulting services mainly. And we have 3 other partners in other cities. So we are not just based in Houston. We have a representative in Cincinnati, San Francisco, and Detroit. What we like to do is actually we would like to, our vision is that we would like to provide a virtual design experience throughout all design stages. So it comes from the idea generation. We would like to use data analytics for design, simulate using the softwares, and all the way to 3D printing. And we would like to offer a complete solution which kind of contains all these stages. So we are not, we are based in Houston, but we are not just focusing on oil and gas industry. Actually, what we do is what we call industry agnostic. We can provide finite element analysis based consultancy services on all of the industries listed here. And Abacus is a very powerful tool which would help us a lot, and which can help you a lot in your medical device design and analysis issues. And if you would like to just ask any questions about finite element analysis and how they can help you, you are more welcome to contact us at any time. And we would be happy to help you, and we would be happy to troubleshoot if you have any questions or in your applications. So actually, right now I will leave the microphone to Dr. Tonoyan, and he's very experienced in medical device development and simulation field. He has been a part of Abacus Simulia for 10+ years, and he will take the microphone now, and he will carry out this presentation. So after his presentation, I can direct your questions to him, and he can provide answers. So thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Ali, and good morning and good afternoon to everybody. I know people were logging in from different regions of the country. So let me start my presentation, make sure that it comes through okay, and you can see, everybody can see it. Ali, you'll be kind of my liaison in terms of telling like how things look through okay. All right, let me see where. So I should be able to show now the presentation should come through okay. Ali, hello? Ali, I cannot hear, so I'm sorry. I'm just wanted to get the confirmation that.
Yeah, well, right now we just see the gray screen on top of the presentation. So can you remove that?
So let me see. Let me start it again so I can make sure that everything is okay. Okay, just give me confirmation when everything comes okay. All right?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
That's great. Well, thank you very much again. So we'll be talking about performing medical device development through realistic simulation and how it can help you. And there's lots of different topics that we were going to cover. I'll try to again cover as much as I can. Obviously, this 1 hour or less than 1 hour is not enough to be able to cover everything, but I'll try to point out key points. And as Ali said, anything that comes up and later you'll need a deeper dive into certain topics, or maybe even a different topic which is related to this, feel free to connect with us, and then we can help you with we can help you with that your problems and simulation needs. So let's see what's a realistic simulation and then how it help us is obviously we want to do simulations that are realistic. Some of the, by the way, some of the animations that you could see, especially in the beginning, there might not necessarily depend, I mean, might not necessarily be related exactly to or be from medical device field. As you can see, like crashing a can or self-deploying booms or satellite. But the problems that I'm kind of trying to highlight here that they're similar in medical device applications. When there's buckling, there's instability, there's all kinds of non-linearities that you might face. Again, the knee simulator that, again, there are two models. One is a real physical, and then there's simulation processes that are playing next to each other to compare. Obviously, the car crash, nothing to do with medical device. Even you can consider the occupant and the way the body behaves be part of it. But it's showing the complexity that we can handle with, you can imagine, kind of in different type of materials, stiffnesses, connections, contacts, and so these are all different parts that it could be considered. So what you can get from realistic simulations? Obviously, you want to understand your products, understand how they work, and then figure out how you can improve them. So whether they're safe, how long will it last? Can I make it last longer? Is my development process efficient? And improving your processes, improving materials, changing materials. Are you getting stem results? When they will break? I mean, how will they break? What if during transportation somebody accidentally drops it, or even a doctor mishandles it and again slips out of his hand? So these are all kinds of different questions, and they're like the questions can be increased, and you would know those questions more and more. But obviously, some of the answers and for many years have been done through physical testing. So let's just see comparing realistic simulation and physical testing. I mean, obvious comparison would be both cost and time, where the physical testing could be time consuming. They could take weeks, sometimes even months, and quite expensive. And I mean, you have to have a specialized lab to do those experiments. They're specialized equipment, sometimes very complicated, and can be done during certain times during lab hours. Or so I mean, some of them you can set up to run for overnight and the weekend. But from the realistic simulation, if the keyword here is realistic, if we can make it realistic enough, so that really represents the physical performance of your parts and models, so we could make it cheaper, quicker. It can be doing anywhere using only computer. And the most important thing which I want to highlight is this last point that says not only what happened, because you could see that from physical testing, and I mean, is it going to work for me or is it going to fail? But a lot of times the answering why it did and what I could done, like where the stresses or where the strains were high, and these are the type of things, because after the fact that you have done the testing, it's very hard to go back unless you again redesign your test and then specifically come and look for those answers. Where with simulations you can deep dive after the simulation is done. So just looking like who's using realistic simulation today, and I would say, I mean, you could see These are some highlights from Simulia Insights magazines, and then some publishings that done from all the various different companies. Obviously, this is not a complete list, but you could see it's from automotive to aerospace to medical device to high-tech electronics. Actually, I cannot think of a single industry that is not using realistic simulation today. Well, maybe I could think of financial industry, but I mean, other than that, I mean, pretty much every industry is using realistic simulation one way or the other. So let's look specifically what we wanted to do, looking at transforming the medical device development part, like how simulations can help you there. And so looking at the medical devices, we can realize that there is a wide variety of devices, from eyeglasses to syringes to very complicated, sophisticated implants. But they're classified by FDA to range from class 1 to class 3, where class 1 being low risk devices, class 3 being higher risk devices. And so it's clear that the amount of testing and validation that needs to be done varies with the type of device. And so the need for and the value of simulation can offer benefits for each type of device. Okay, and then I'm not going to go in deep dive like where the differences between class 1 and 3, but just as some example, some class 1 devices that are not deemed to be low risk, I mean, it's a dental floss, right? So that could be classified as class 1, class 2 device, a little bit higher risk devices and require a little greater regulatory control to reasonably assure the device safety and effectiveness is met. So some of the examples of that would be, I say condoms, and something pops up. And class 3 devices, now these are obviously highest risk devices, and they're subject to highest level of regulatory control. And FDA controls it. A lot of, I mean, they have to be approved before they're marketed and so on. So, like say, replacement heart valves could be under those. So let's see how simulation can help you, and how we'll look at different types of medical devices, varying level of companies and knowledge that they have and expertise. And like, so looking at this map, so there are companies and organizations with different levels of expertise, right? So that they have with modeling and simulation. So this evolution map, we can typically find that companies that have the lower risk, lower level of expertise typically don't use much simulation, or they rely on other companies to provide them simulation services, consulting services, and so on. But once they see the value of simulation, they start adopting the simulation within their own organizations and bringing in the people who deal with this type of thing. And then again, guessing most of you in your companies have that role. And most of the major medical device companies are already at this stage of adoption today, while the few more sophisticated organizations have gone on to add optimization so that devices they design and produce are far superior than the original design they had or the models they have started with. A handful of those companies have started looking into managing all of this data and the processes that result from the use of modeling and simulation. And you could kind of understand that, I mean, as you do these models, there's knowledge base adds up. I mean, you have a lot of different variations. So managing it, sometimes a lot of engineers like manage on their own through their file system, naming conventions, and so on. But the data management and process management really help to get you capture IP and knowledge and reuse it as you need it. So all of this is relevant to class 1, class 2 device, and of course more relevant and critical to class 3 devices. The next big transformation that is starting and will likely help separate the leading players from the other competitors is simulating the interaction of the devices with the body rather than just simulating the device to supplement or potentially replace experimental bench tests. This ability to simulate product-life interaction will eventually open the doors for virtual preclinical and even virtual clinical trials, or at least have the ability to improve the design of clinical trials so that we can reduce the chances of failure or better understand the patient population for which that particular device might be more effective. So the product life interaction simulation then also opens the door for sorry, I'm trying to get, there you go. Yeah, so for personalization where the device can be designed to match the individual characteristics, I mean, each person's characteristics and body type and so on. It opens up personalization in a different way from clinical perspective in which they will be able to make choices in device selection. I mean, what size works best, what happens to device effectiveness over a period of time, or as local tissue changes and remodels and what happens during lifetime of that individual. So as you can see, we believe modeling and simulation is poised to transform the medical device industry. No matter, I mean, it already does a lot, but no matter what type of device under consideration, again, will be from class 1 to 3, but especially at the higher, I mean, especially for class 2 or 3. And over the next several minutes, I'll show you examples of how the modeling and simulation is helping transform the medical device development and moving us towards the personalized clinical decision. Okay. So let's take a look at the Simulia portfolio for life sciences. At the core is the proven Abacus FEA simulation technology that is widely used to solve all types of multi-physics simulation problems. Once you have the ability to run these realistic simulations, you can take the next step going to better understand the life of the device. Is it going to fail? When is it going to fail? And how long will it last? And so on. And of course, once you understand that part of the device life, you want to do it better. So where's the next two solution? I mean, so this EyeSight and Tosca come in, and where the EyeSight is the leading solution for process integration and design optimization, which basically means that you can capture and automate your design processes, including all your different simulation runs. And then that opens the door for optimization by changing some parameters from material properties to even the geometry itself. The Tosca, the last product on the slide, I mean, not obviously with Abacus, adds to that by allowing non-parametric optimization, but you can come up with optimal shapes, topologies that you may not even have considered before when you started your design process. So this portfolio is the key to moving up the chain in terms of simulation expertise and to realize the value of modeling and simulation for medical device development. And finally, of course, we can manage all of the data and processes enveloping this whole thing and IP that results from the use of modeling and simulation. So it's important to talk here too a little bit about quality management system, because if you do use simulation in medical device development process, you need to be sure to follow good practices and recommendations for verification, validation, such as those from ASME VNV40 committee. While the recommendation from VNV40 are thorough, the key point is that it rests on the foundation of strong software quality And Abacus for many years has been qualified at the highest levels with extensive QA that ensures quality, correctness. Thousands of benchmarks are done, verification and other tests are done. So there is systematic and process which is documented for the changes, consistent with ISO norms. There are details that you can find on Simulia web pages. There are details you can find on Simulia web page for quality monitoring that can be used for audits and things like that. Okay. So let's take a quick look at some of the examples of Simulia usage for a wide range of medical devices before we get into details. The first example application would be in the area of the pre-filled syringes, where it's important to avoid failures for patient safety or some other reasons. This can be considered as a medical device simulation, but is very relevant to pharmaceutical companies as well. So the other two examples here are the to assess and prevent buckling and buckling of a filled catheter, and another one to assist the development of peristaltic pump that can be used for drug delivery. Next examples shown here are for the development of a range of cardiovascular devices like annuloplasty rings, pacemaker leads, coronary stents, and so on. Before getting into specifics, I also want to point out that the usage of simulation is not just limited to the devices themselves, but they can be applied to the packaging and packaging of the devices. So you can use to simulate the manufacturing process of various types, could be packaging, or you can have assess the effect of using different kinds of materials, or the process of packaging itself. So you can simulate the effectiveness of the packaging. Say, will it survive transportation loads? What happens if you accidentally, or obviously not you, but somebody at the user end drops it? So not only you can develop effective medical device, but it can make sure that the packaging is safe, efficient, and we can talk a lot more about packaging, whether it's making sure that you fill the packaging correctly with the correct loads, preventing premature opening, manufacturing plastic package via injection molding, or figuring out how to use optimal amounts of material in a perfect package. But in interest of time, I will continue to focus on medical device development itself. Okay. Okay, so the last example I wanted to share before we get into detail about Abacus is about the Abacus knee simulator. This is an automated modeling tool that enables the performance of a basic to advanced knee implant simulation, several of which have testing requirements that are often required for regulatory approval. There'll be contract mechanics, where total knee replacement. So this is a vertical application built on Abacus CAE interface, while the simulation are executed using Abacus solver. In particular cases, Abacus explicit solver. Okay, so the Abacus knee simulator, that stands AKS, that's what it stands for, provides 5 workflows which allow manufacturers of orthopedic knee implants and devices to explore a variety of different designs in less time and at a fraction of a cost. Finally, I want to connect back to the point about quality. It's important that we build confidence in the use of simulation in the development of medical devices. So on top of the quality points I discussed, we're taking AKS through medical device development tool process for the implant constraint context of use. So you'll hear more about this later, but the key point is that we're committed to ensure that you can use our modeling and simulation solution with confidence. And there are lots more examples available through Abacus website. I mean, there is a link provided here, but if you just go to 3DS and search for Simulia resources for medical device articles, there's plenty information there that you can find, and plenty published information. Obviously, there is lots of work that has been done that, I mean, you understand for obvious reasons, were not published. But there are many more companies that use and realistic simulation and get benefits from this. So let's look at that hip length example. So I wanted to walk you through a bit more in detail, showing simulation. I mean, how simulation, optimization, and other tools can be used in development process for these personalized implants in this particular case. So damaged or diseased hip joint have been replaced with artificial or prosthetic ones beginning in 1950s. So total hip replacement surgery involves removal of the head of the upper portion of the femur, as well as some of the bone marrow at the top of the remaining femur segment. Into this hole within the center of the femur, a metal anchorage stem is secured that has the ball portion of the joint at its other end. And so the replacement cup socket must be attached also to the pelvis. The hip replacement is currently the most common orthopedic operation, though the patient satisfaction both for short and long term varies widely. So, I mean, there's, let me see. Okay, so I mean, this is done throughout the countries. I mean, in various countries, in developed countries, and approximately, if I remember right, it's 0.8% of Americans have undergone this procedure, though the number of procedure rises due to general changes in lifestyle. That would be like lack of exercise, obesity, and there are all different other aspects. But the cost of this hip replacement, which is, I have data from 2012, is over $40,000 in US. So as every patient is obviously different, a major challenge is regarding these hip implants is to meet personal needs. And this is true like for many various cases and various medical devices. So in this particular case, for example, the bone geometry has to be considered when fitting implant into the body. So the medical device manufacturer therefore designs a set of, could be up to 250 different variants of an implant to have one that fits each patient the best. Okay, that's as close as it can be to the patient. During his lifetime, the implant has to endure high loads. Therefore, a certification process, including extensive workbench testing, has to be passed for each single variant. This workbench test following the ISO standards requires 5 million load cycles on an implant fixed in cement. So depending on the applied testing frequency, this easily means up to 12 days testing for each variant. Okay, so then now imagine that you have a new implant with 200 different geometric variants. Following the certification rule, every single variant needs to be tested on the workbench, assuming that you have 40 test benches are available to you, and with the test time of 12 days per implant, you get total workbench testing time of about 60 days. So thus, this certification of a new implant series requires more than 60 days when the final designs are available, given that you're not going to change any of those designs and obviously have to retest it again. With the simulation, this process can be substantially accelerated. So instead of workbench testing, each individual design is done virtually, right? So done through simulation. And so through simulation, the testing time per variant can be reduced from 12 days to less than 5 minutes. So if you do all 200, it comes less than a day. But obviously, that's not, I mean, you cannot be done by that. So with this simulation-driven approach, you could do only the worst performing, but still virtually obviously passing variant. And that's the other benefit, that you know that virtually, at least virtually, that simulation or that implant particular has passed. But you take the worst performing one and test on a workbench, which will obviously take 12 days. 12 days, and you only will need one test machine to perform that. So in overall, that certification can be done in less than 2 weeks, right? So 12 days for that one test, and then plus the like a little bit extra time, but you need it ahead of time for simulation. So let's go to next. I'm somehow stuck here. Sorry. Okay. So this combination of designing a set of implants and simulation-driven testing, which means virtual testing of all variants and work-based testing of the worst performing one, results in a time savings and thus accelerated go-to-market. I have a hard time changing slides. Okay, so so this virtual testing following the ISO standards is, I mean, involves several steps, and obviously we can kind of quickly look at what those steps are. The first, a fully parametric model of the ISO test arrangement was set up in Abacus. Right? So users will be able to change the typical parameters describing the implant: stem length, size, neck length, angle. Then the implant is put into a cylindrical block of surgical cement and it meshed, and then the load is applied at the center of implant head. So the model, the model itself is fully scripted, so we can automatically modify the relevant dimensions, regenerate geometry, reseed it, remesh it, apply boundary condition, and run the analysis. So we can get to FDA results, and then those results then transfer to FE-Safe for durability assessment, because again, ISO requirements have that ISO requirement have that durability requirement there, and then the loads used. In this case, the loads are used as simple sinusoidal load as defined in the standard, and the material used is a medical grade titanium alloy. So to pass the certification, the implant must sustain 5 million repeats of sinusoidal load. And as you can see in the picture, the critical area is typically located at the neck of the implant, just below the taper. Right? Okay. And obviously, running those simulations, if you have 200 or 250 size variation, would be quite tedious task. But we have wrapped it around all the eyesight design of experiment analysis, okay, so which does it automatically, and having all the parameterized, I mean, again, geometry, and then various parts of the model. I mean, this can be done easily, identify which devices and which performance was the worst, so we can use those in a work-based testing for certification. So should we find that design will not meet the certification criteria, right? We can use Tosca to locally optimize the geometry to improve the device performance. So the objective here was that to minimize the damage, focusing on the neck of the implant and considering relevant manufacturing constraints that obviously we have to be able to manufacture this. And this in this particular optimization case, fatigue life increased almost 5 times. Okay. So to summarize then this whole thing, we've seen so far how simulation is used to speed up the development process and improve the reliability and effectiveness of implants. So I mean, some of the parts. So eyesight, the process integration and design automation. So it captures and automates the ISO certification process for implant variations because FEA analysis provides us with realistic simulation of stresses and deformations of implants, right, which are now through FEA fatigue analysis used to virtual life assessment of implants, again, following the ISO standard. And at the end, the task structure optimization, which deals with shape optimization for detailed design improvements and increase implant lifetime. So this results in accelerated certification process and go to market, okay, which is very critical for all the companies. So simulation already offers great possibilities to model, investigate, forecast the success of medical devices for a specific patient. So we're talking about now personalized implants, kind of going to the next level. 3 application cases are showing how simulation can be used already today to bring personalized healthcare to life. I mean, very high and cutting edge technology. So with simulation, it's easily possible to consider personal data and then find the best individual therapy for every single patient before actually doing the actual surgery. And that's the key point here. So the first application is the virtual implant testing with patient-specific bone geometry, which we get from scan data. Then second case is how simulation we can create and consider patient-specific load data. Right? It's not just generic data that we're thinking that it needs to be applied, but depending on patient's activity level. Thus, the design of implant can be adjusted exactly to meet that individual patient's needs. And now we're talking about physical activity needs and what it usually does, whether it's an athlete or a person who's spending days more relaxed. And so again, variations you can imagine, there'll be all kinds of, and even the activities you can think of that will be different and cause different loading. And then the third application shows that how long-term behavior of implants can be forecasted through simulation by considering patient-specific bone properties, activity level, and this enables to investigate the patient's responses and to the implant application, like healing, long-term behavior. And all this is before even doing the surgery. So let's go further detail here. And so looking at the patient-specific bone data from CT scan, simulation offers a complete new way of implant testing. So based on CT scan data, a patient-specific virtual bone model can be generated. The chosen implant variant or implant design then can be applied virtually to the bone. And with simulation, the mechanical interaction between bone and implant, the implant properties can be investigated for every patient in more realistic way. And so this is obviously patient-specific. By this simulation process, the optimal implant from the huge set of variants can be chosen, and which ensures the best fit for that individual patient. So in similar manner to the bone geometry, the personalized patient activity level can be taken into account. Multi-body simulation can be used to better understand and investigate the loads acting on the joint in general and in specific patient case also. So depending on the personal activity level and personalized load scenarios then can be applied to the implant model. So as I mentioned, so for example, the implant for an athletic person has to cover higher loads and with different variation of loads, and then implant for a less physically active person. So that's also causing the best implant variant for each patient to be chosen. Okay, so looking at the long-term behavior, I mean, that's getting even, again, more, I would say, complex, because then you have to figure out in long-term behavior, how is the bone itself is being remodeled or or changed. Because of the strength of the implant, the bone around the implant has to absorb only a small fraction of the load, which we know leads to bone loss in that area, and also in the area around implant. And thus simulating this process, the best fitting compromise between strong implant, which covers all the requested loads, and less stiff implant, which prevents bone loss, can be obtained. So the long-term behavior of the implant can be predicted even before, again, implant is inserted in the body. So here's the benefit of simulation pays off. In the virtual world, the patient's responses on multiple implant variants can be forecasted even before the surgery. And it's even possible to predict the bone condition of in a couple of years after the implant surgery, and then avoid this non-satisfying result, and causing or creating a perfect implant design for the specific patient, and investigate it in advance. Okay, so in the upcoming field of personalized healthcare, the power of simulation is the true enabler for huge development potential in life science industry. So for personalized implant solution, which we were talking, right? So Dassault provides the simulation techniques for patient-specific implant design and certification, and then together with 3D printing and the additive layer of manufacturing industry, simulation offers individual solutions perfectly serving each patient's health and needs. So there are a lot of next few slides, I want to talk about the interaction of the device with the body, right? So because we were just talking about the devices at this point, and then putting the loads, however we obtain those loads. But this obviously interaction is quite important for all types of devices with our body, whether it's external or internal. And so why to use simulate, why to use product life interaction? Because we want to design and develop more effective products, improve comfort level for the users, like evaluate various scenarios that will be difficult, and most of the time I would say is impossible to assess. And this will accelerate the progress towards personalized solutions, right? So what are the enabling technologies? So there could be, from the product response standpoint, right, as these examples we've seen, some of them we talked about, but covers again wide range of from knee replacement syringes, hip implant stents, and so on. To realistic modeling of human itself, so human modeling and simulation, where it'll be including biological materials, tissue, skin, bones, and all this stuff. Improve modeling from getting images from 3D, like morphing joints, and even ever so complicated organ level fidelity, right? So we're talking about hearts, eyes, maybe even brain. So there is one model that Simule Abacus has created a virtual model of a beating heart, and this is an example of what we could achieve with simulation. This is a realistic, validated virtual model of a beating heart, which can then be used to starting to assess device behavior and function inside the heart itself, all in virtual manner. This is, you can see the beauty of this virtual model of a beating heart, and which is obtained through multi-physics-based realistic simulation and realistic rendering. It almost looks like that we just took camera inside the person's body and done it. But whoever has dealt with complex loading, I mean, his hearts or even arteries, it could and appreciate like the difficulties of the boundary conditions or the loads you're trying to put on the device, and again making it realistic. So. So this ability to assess device function and behavior inside the heart then opens the door for a variety of benefits, right? Reducing development time and cost, improving device reliability, accelerating progress towards virtual clinical trials, and moving towards personalized solutions. So you can see like all various, I mean, and these are obviously not limiting to this type of applications, but many more to come. Of course, we're not yet at the point where we're doing virtual clinical trials, but we're starting to make some good progress towards making that feasible. So the ability to take into account the interaction of the device with the body is transforming the medical device development process. So you see that, I mean, how currently that development process looks. So the current use of simulation, it's used either at the beginning of the process or after the device has been launched and perhaps some kind of failure assessment where some complications or patient's complaints or however that comes to you that, oh, we will need to use what happened afterwards. Okay. But with the product life cycle, there's product life simulation, modeling and simulation, and it will be used for the entire development process, and which will have significant transformational impact on medical devices industry. So let's see why we want to do it now. And there are three reasons for that. So one is there is a good regulatory support from the FDA for the use of simulation in development of medical devices. This is clear from the recent events like FDA Biomedical Engineering Society conferences and also through the availability of programs like MDDT process. Second is market forces and how the market, I mean, clinical trials in some outside of US, some other countries impact your approval. How do you get lower cost with better outcomes? Obviously, we want to be in that fourth quarter. And then the third is the availability of the technology, like I have shown for the simulation, taking into account not only the physics in detail, but also the variations of human body and various engineering tolerances. Okay, so let's maybe talk about how we can help, and actually I'll be asking how we can help you, and you'll be the best judgment. No matter where you are on that evaluation map that I initially show you, we have a solution for you. So again, whether you have any type of consulting need that you wanted to understand or you already adopted and then want to go further, and there's some complications that you're considering, or you want to already start looking into optimization, managing your data, or going even next levels of product life interactions or personalized device development. I mean, we're here to help. So I think with this, I'll conclude my presentation, and Ali, you can take over. Hello, I can hear you. I cannot hear you, Ali. Something perhaps happened with Ali. Let me make sure that. Ali?
Hello, Arsen. Yes.
Yes.
We have a question.
Okay.
We can start the question session. Well, somebody asked for 510K application of implants. Can physical tests be replaced with simulator results? Like hip and knee ASTM testings? Or will simulator results only work as a supplement to physical tests?
Okay, so again, you can definitely use simulator results. I mean, physical tests, in my view, and then I've again worked and interacted with many companies, cannot completely, and FDA itself, replace and say we're not there yet that we have that much fidelity in simulation, but we have fidelity enough that we can have a good prediction of realistically saying what's going to happen, and do variations, improve your design, improve your durability, or whatever you're looking at, life cycle, or you're avoiding failures, and then again bring it up and test the final product that you come up with in a physical testing to get the approval. I mean, obviously that again has all kinds of FDA requirements, but that will avoid you to each time you want to change something in a model, then you have to go recreate the physical prototype and then test it again. And my biggest advice for using simulation, or rather, like the biggest proponent for using simulation, is that you would know why, if something happened, why did it happen. Again, you can cut through your model itself and like look deep inside and see what happened to stresses, deformations, strains, and all other parameters that might interest you to understand what happened and why it happened, so you can make more better decisions and figure it out what can be done to replace it, to fix it. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay, so if anyone has any other questions, and if you can type, we'd be happy to answer.
Okay, and just to mention, Ali would share the information through email, like how to get in touch with us, and like again, if you need any more details on the presentation itself, or again deeper dive, feel free to connect with us, and then we'll at least start a conversation.
Yes, I'll follow up with an email after this webinar, and we'll be happy to talk to you about any questions that you might have. So thanks again for participating in our webinar. We have another question, Arsen.
Okay.
Bob asked if we have explored using multi-body simulation to model pathomechanics to better understand the clinical need and guide the development process from the front end. So side-by-side marketing evaluations of different implants could be assessed as well. That's what Bob asks.
Okay, let me try to understand. I mean, multi-body simulations, I'm not, pathomechanics, I'm not familiar with what it refers to, but modeling, doing a multi-body simulation that, I mean, is definitely done. And then you've seen one of the examples that, I mean, is done through the multi-body simulations to, well, now it's not to correct the problem, as I said. The question was on more like to assess if the clinical need is there to do anything. Perhaps, I mean, but obviously at this point, when medical devices are created, are more people are trying to work out and develop like how the problem can be fixed rather than is there a problem. But I don't see why not. I mean, that it could be part of the simulation. And eventually, I mean, we would come there, and then we already have the technology, except now it remains for the community to start using and taking benefit of it, and not only through, I mean, development process, but also to making understand is there a clinical need. I mean, and again, that's part of the question I understood. I'm not sure if that's exactly what you were looking for.
So Bob, if you have any further questions, please.
Or you can connect with email, and I try to answer more detail. That's another way.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so if people don't have questions, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation. I don't know if Ali, do you have any more follow-up? And I'm guessing, like, again, leaving a couple of minutes early, people would not mind. I know there's in some places it's lunchtime coming up, in some places it's already done. Maybe you've missed your lunch. But thanks a lot. Again, I hope you learned something and that benefited you spending an hour with us.
Yeah, thanks again for Arsen. And yes, and Dinesh, one last question. Dinesh says, do you have any examples of needle skin insertion simulation?
We've done a lot of needle skin insertion simulations, and I know it's part of it. I mean, I don't have it. Some of those they're not shareable, but we can find out if there any public domain information that we can share. But I know that that part has been done and has been simulated with various biological models. So that's where so the answer yes. I mean, and then we'll just have to see how much of that is a public domain information that I can share.
Yeah, I also noted this down, and I'll follow up with our sources in Simulator.
Okay, sounds great.
Okay, any other questions? So thank you. Then, as I said before, we can always follow up with your questions. If you can just ask us over an email, I'll be sending a thank you email shortly. So thanks for having us today, and we'll look forward to hearing from you again. Thank you.
Thanks everybody. Thanks, Ali.
Bye.